All right. What do we got? Israel and Hamas ceasefire deal. Israel and Hamas agree to a ceasefire deal, including hostage release, Biden says. A hostage and ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel was reached Wednesday, following more than 15 months of extraordinary bloodshed and violence in Gaza. President Joe Biden said Wednesday. Implementation of the agreement is set to start Sunday, according to Qatar's prime minister. The agreement, which requires ratification by a vote of Israel's cabinet, follows an intense period of meetings and calls over the past several days, including by Biden to the leaders of Israel and mediating partners Qatar and Egypt. Steve Witkoff, President-elect Donald Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, has also played an instrumental role, meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the weekend to express Trump's interest in attaining a deal before his inauguration on Monday. Wait, is that it? Here's what to know. Okay, let's read. This article seems to be more substantive. Is it substantive or substantive? I've gone back and forth on this word. Hold on.
Substantive.
It is substantive.
Substantive.
Okay. Israel and Hamas reach a Gaza ceasefire agreement. Israel and Hamas have reached an agreement on a multi-phase ceasefire that commits them to end the war in Gaza. President Biden and Qatar's prime minister announced separately on Wednesday. This deal will halt fighting in Gaza, surge much-needed humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians, and reunite the hostages with their families after more than 15 months in captivity, Biden said. He said that it was the same as a proposal he made in May of 2024, which was endorsed by the United Nations Security Council. Neither Israel nor Hamas immediately confirmed the deal, but officials close to the negotiations told NPR that both sides have reached a tentative ceasefire intended to end more than 15 months of the heaviest fighting ever between the two sides. The office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that there remained several unresolved points, but hoped the details would be finalized tonight. When was this published? This is today. The deal comes after weeks of intensive rounds of indirect negotiations in the Qatari capital, Doha, between Israel and Hamas, mediated by facilitators from the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar. In an unusual twist, envoys from both President Biden's administration and President-elect Donald Trump's team were also there, pressuring the sides to close a deal. The ceasefire is due to start on Sunday, according to Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani. Jesus Christ, bro, chill. Several technical details about the agreement remain unclear, and it will require formal ratification by Israel's cabinet before it can take effect. Israel's President Isaac Herzog called on the cabinet and government of Israel to accept and approve it when presented, saying, "At great cost in blood, through enormous security, diplomatic, and societal efforts, we have created a moment of opportunity. We must seize it." Israel's foreign minister, Gideon Saar, said he was cutting short a trip to Europe to return to Israel for a government meeting on the ceasefire, expected to take place Thursday. The country's culture and sports minister, Miki Zohar, said in a statement he would vote on the agreement Thursday with his cabinet colleagues. It is the duty of every government minister to vote in favor of the deal, Zohar said. Earlier on Wednesday, Hamas had issued a statement that described a meeting between one of its senior leaders, Mohammed Darwish, and Ziad al-Nakhala, the head of another armed faction that operates inside Gaza, the Islamic Jihad group. The statement said the two men's discussion had involved stressing the exertion of all efforts to make this round of negotiations a success. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed news of the agreement, saying, "Our priority must be to ease the tremendous suffering caused by this conflict. I call on all parties to facilitate the rapid, unhindered, and safe humanitarian relief for all civilians in need." A deal in 3 phases. Many obstacles remain, though, with fighting still ongoing. Palestinian officials reported Israeli attacks killed more than 50 people on Wednesday, but if all goes as planned, the deal is expected to take effect within days and play out in 3 phases over an extended period. In the first phase, lasting 6 weeks, Hamas promises to release 33 Israeli hostages in exchange for a far greater number of Palestinian detainees. It's not clear how many are involved, since the group wants more detainees per each hostage freed alive, but has not said how many are still living. Most, but not all, are believed to be alive, according to Israeli officials. The total number of Palestinians released from Israeli custody is expected to be around 1,000, according to a Palestinian official who is not authorized to speak to the media. Ooh, I wonder if these are like prisoner of war type people, or if these are just Palestinian like prisoners, like just anybody who's in a jail in Israel. Oof. Israel will reduce but not end its military presence in Gaza during the first phase. Hamas will not release the final hostages, and Israel will not fully withdraw from Gaza until a later phase. The time frame involved were not immediately clear. President-elect Trump commented on his social media platform there was a deal involving hostages. They will be released shortly, he wrote on his Truth Social network. Meanwhile, the spokesperson for Israeli President Isaac Herzog published a photograph on social media that showed Herzog meeting at his presidential residence in Jerusalem with the head of the International Committee, the Red Cross, Mirana Spoljaric-Egger, in what the spokesperson said was part of preparations for the hostage deal. This would be the first formal ceasefire since a one-week truce in November of 2023, which included an exchange of about 100 Israeli hostages held in Gaza and about 240 Palestinian prisoners released from Israeli prisons. Subsequently, other hostages in Gaza were rescued or found dead. The war began on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas-led militants attacked southern Israel from Gaza, killing around 1,200 people, taking more than 250 hostages into Gaza. We, the families of 98 hostages, welcome with overwhelming joy and relief the agreement to bring our loved ones home. A statement by the Hostages and Missing Families Forum said, "We wish to express our profound gratitude to President-elect Trump, President Biden, both administrations, and the international mediators for making this possible. The war has killed more than 46,000 Palestinians, according to Gaza health authorities, who said the majority were women and children. The Israeli military says 405 soldiers have been killed in fighting since it invaded Gaza." On the Israeli side, I'm guessing. On the Israeli side? That's a lot more than I would have thought. Israel and Hamas have fought a number of wars since the Palestinian militant organization wrested control of the Gaza Strip from the Palestinian Authority in 2007. However, none of the previous conflicts have been nearly this long or this deadly. Why is a Trump guy allowed to be in these negotiations? I heard that Biden's guy invited him, but I think that... it would make sense if it's like a transition to a new administration that they would be somewhat informed on these. I would imagine you'd probably want them to be. Like in a well-functioning government, this is a good thing. Do you think that Trump's rhetoric did anything to accelerate the ceasefire? I think it's a coincidence, but Trump will take credit for it regardless, unfortunately. A ceasefire has to come eventually. I think I was asking a few months ago, when are they going to be done with this? Because I feel like what else is there left to do, right? I think Israel is made out really, really, really well from all this conflict. They got to fuck up Hezbollah. They got to fuck up the Houthis a little. No, not fuck up the Houthis, but at least defend from them and watch them get fucked up by the U.S. They got to fuck up Iran and defend from attacks from Iran. And they get to fuck up Hamas hardcore. So I feel like Israel basically got everything they wanted out of this. And a ceasefire is going to come at some point. So... I think the interesting question is, what are the actual things that are ironed out in the peace deal? Isn't this like how Reagan got Iran to delay the hostage release? No, because I don't believe that was done under Jimmy Carter's presidency. That wasn't until Reagan took office. That was a different thing. Statement from President Joe Biden. Today, after many months of intensive diplomacy by the United States, along with Egypt and Qatar, Israel and Hamas have reached a ceasefire and hostage deal. The deal will halt the fighting in Gaza, surge much-needed humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians, and reunite the hostages with their families after more than 15 months in captivity. I laid out the precise contours of this plan on May 31st, 2024, after which it was endorsed unanimously by the UN Security Council. It is the result not only of the extreme pressure that Hamas has been under and the changed regional equation after a ceasefire in Lebanon and the weakening of Iran. Oh, nice. Good job. True. Yeah. But also of dogged dogged and painstaking American diplomacy. By diplomacy never ceased in their efforts to get this done. Even as we welcome this news, we remember all the families whose loved ones were killed in Hamas's October 7th attacks. I mean, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Are there any details on like what the actual plan was or what it entails? Does this make Trump look good, Destiny? Whoops. Arab officials. Trump envoys swayed Netanyahu more in one meeting than Biden did all year. Tense Jerusalem sit-down led to breakthrough in talks, while Israel and Hamas agreeing in principle to hostage deal 2 days later. Sides now finalizing implementation details. I guess I don't know what this means more than Biden did all year. Like, Israel was never, ever doing a ceasefire. When was the, what's the name of the city to the south of Khan Yunis? Oh my God, what am I thinking? Oh, I can just look, I guess. Oh, Rafah. When did Israel do the big Rafah invasion? Oh, this was in May. Okay. Before the invasion of Rafah, Israel was never settling on anything ever. I don't think. Like, there's no way. So it was always going to last probably at least this long. Any predictions on how Anna and Jank will respond to Biden helping Israel-Palestine ceasefires before his term ends? One of two ways. It's either going to be, look, Trump is actually a god. He is the president of peace. Or it'll be, why didn't Biden do this sooner? Why didn't he make peace 4 years ago? Why he should have solved it before it even happened? Is my guess. Or something about the donor class. During the meeting, Witkoff, so this is the Trump envoy, Witkoff urged Netanyahu to accept key compromises necessary for an agreement. The two Arab officials on Monday told the Times of Israel on condition of anonymity. Neither Witkoff nor Netanyahu's office responded to requests for comment. I wonder what the two key compromises on what? Oh, hold on. We got another thing. 1 second. Details of what's in the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. After months of negotiations between Hamas and Israel, with the United States, Egypt, and Qatar serving as intermediaries. Okay. We have a deal that will take place in 3 different phases, each of which will last for 6 weeks, according to U.S. and Qatari officials. Phase 1 of the ceasefire has been finalized, according to Qatar's prime minister, while phase 2 and 3 are still in a draft phase and will be finalized after the first 6 weeks are complete. That's kind of spooky, but okay. Here are the full details of what's in phase 1 of the historic ceasefire deal. Phase 1, 42 days. Israeli forces will withdraw to the east, away from densely populated areas, and more aid will be allowed into Gaza. Qatari officials announced coordination is currently underway to open the Palestinian side of the Rafah border crossing to allow the entry of international aid into Gaza, according to an Egyptian security source. Okay. Israeli forces will stay on the border, Qatar said. 33 hostages being held in Gaza will be released, starting with women, children, and the elderly, officials said. President Joe Biden said Americans will be part of the initial hostage release. 3 Americans are believed to be alive in Hamas custody, and 4 others are believed to be dead. Hundreds of Palestinian prisoners being held by Israel will also be released in exchange for the hostages, Biden said. During phase 1, the Palestinians can also return to their neighborhoods in all of the areas of Gaza, and the surge of humanitarian assistance into Gaza will begin, and the innocent people can have greater access to these vital supplies. The Israeli cabinet will convene on Thursday to approve the deal. Phase 2, announcement of sustainable, calm, permanent cessation of military operations and all hostilities to be implemented before the exchange of remaining Israeli male hostages, civilians and soldiers, for an agreed upon number of prisoners in Israeli jails, and the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip. We'll see. We'll see on that one. Okay. Permanent cessation of military operations and all hostilities. Can you explain why this is a victory for Israel? I think this is a victory for Hamas because this shows they can attack Israel and then return to normalcy without any real consequences. What do you mean without any real consequences? I think Hamas was fucking obliterated. What are you talking about? Israel has had an unbelievable string of wins over the past few months between Iran, Hezbollah, everything with Hamas, the Houthis getting bombed by the U.S., and then Assad getting kicked out of his country. I feel like Israel's just had so many unbelievably strong wins. And then they fucking got all the big Hamas leaders. They got, I always forget his first name, Sinwar, who was the Hamas leader of, Yahya Sinwar, right? Who was the leader of the Gaza Strip, of Hamas. No. No. Yeah, he was the leader of the Gaza Strip when he got killed, right? And then they got Ismail Haniyeh, who was the chairman, the leader of all of Hamas. They killed this dude, and they got Mohammed Daif, who was the leader of the Al-Qassam brigades, who's the military leader. These are the top 3 Hamas dudes, and they killed all of them. So I think that's incredibly helpful. Hamas has recruited almost as many new members as they lost. Even if that's true, it's still really good for Israel. These are going to be brand new people who knows how effective they'll be. They won't have any training. They won't have had any coordination. I mean, it's bad. I mean, I guess it's not good, but I wonder how they even know this. Oh, Yahya Sinwar's younger brother was apparently in Gaza too. Nice. How do you think the insurgency math will work out? Hamas is done. Something will take its place. Personally, I feel like any deal that leaves Hamas in charge is just an utter and total failure. But if I was Netanyahu, I don't even know all the things at play right now. Hamas being in charge of the Gaza Strip is bad for everybody. It's bad for, well, it depends actually on what your interests are, I guess. Hamas in the Gaza Strip allows Israel to maintain a really aggressive position towards the Gaza Strip, so things like the blockade or blocking travel in and out can still somewhat be justified by Hamas being there. And it still keeps a division between the Palestinians, because you've got 2 groups of Palestinians now, the Gaza Strip Palestinians, led by Hamas, and the West Bank Palestinians, led by the Palestinian Authority and the PLO, or the PLO, it's the same thing kind of. If the Palestinian Authority is given control over the Gaza Strip, which I feel like they should be, or Hamas can be rolled into the Palestinian Authority or rolled into the PLO, which I don't know. I haven't seen statements from any PLO person to know if that would even be possible. Then that would be a step in the right direction, but it would also maybe go towards unity between the Palestinians. I don't know how Netanyahu feels about that. I I don't know how the Palestinian Authority or the Palestinian Liberation Organization, I don't know how the PLO feels about that. I have no idea. I don't know if Mahmoud Abbas has made any statements about any of this or what his plans are. Look at this guy. This guy is 90 years old. I feel like he looks and functions really well for being so fucking old. What the fuck? The prime minister said the Palestinian Authority would take over Gaza. Ooh, can you link me that? Did Mohammed Deif actually die? I remember it was just a rumor. Who did we see the dead pictures of? Was it him or was it Sinwar? Who was the guy he was on the ground? He was dead. That was Sinwar. I don't remember if Dave died in Syria or not. In like an embassy or some shit. Maybe he was, I don't remember. It's an article saying Hamas now accepts Israel killed. Mohammed Deif has arrested 2 people. Sources tell paper. Nobody? Insists. I feel like that's a different thing than saying that it has happened. Palestinian Prime Minister Mustafa insists any plan to separate Gaza will be rejected.
Why AAA?
Oh my God. Wait, hold on. Wait, how much of this shit did I miss? The fuck? Stop. Is the prime minister of the PA different than the? Is it different than the prime minister of the PLO? The way that they structure this government is so fucking annoying. Okay, I'm guessing it is. Yeah. Okay. Dumb. No, Abbas is the president. Mustafa is the prime minister. Sure, but I think Abbas is also the prime minister of the PLO, though, right? Or no, it's not prime minister. I'm sorry, it's chairman. They have chairman. Why does everybody have a different name for the top of their organizations? Okay. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa firmly stated on Wednesday that it is unacceptable for any entity other than the Palestinian Authority to govern the Gaza Strip in the future. I agree with this. I think it would be stupid if they weren't. But I don't know what will actually happen. Okay. What is this? You can take the girl out of the Waffle House, but you can't take Waffle House out of the girl.
I can see that somebody's campaign coffers really are struggling right now. So she gonna keep saying trans, 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 so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all to tell
no
me
child.
whether or
Do
not
call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out.
I will not do that. I am not a child.
I am reclaiming my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is
What?
not in order.
Those men are like, get me out of here.
I know, seriously. Every time I watch Jasmine Crockett speak, I feel like she's testifying on a show called The Stupid People's Court. It's so hard to watch. And yes, she always goes to that other insult with Nancy Mace or anybody who dares counter some of her limited thought process. But good on Nancy Mace for stepping up for herself here. And lest we forget, Nancy Mace was a Waffle House waitress, so she ain't taking nothing from anybody. Like, if we really wanted to secure the border, you send the women who police Waffle House at 2 in the morning down there. Tom Holman could take the rest of the year off. We'd be fine.
Absolutely fucking epic. Okay. Oh, God. Can I handle watching this? Oh. Trump just ended the war in Israel.
This literally just happened an hour ago. Bro said this ceasefire is epic. Yes, he did. Okay, let's watch it.
This is a massive deal, weeks in the making, Alex.
It certainly is, if not longer, Pam.
Probably years.
We have been waiting for more than 13 months.
I'm so sorry. Am I going to be nitpicky as fuck? Did he just say probably years? How nitpicky do I want to be here? Hold on.
It certainly is, if not longer, Pam.
Probably years.
We have been waiting.
Okay, so just to be clear, the current war has not lasted for years, so that is probably not possible unless there were time-traveling negotiators, but okay.
Waiting for more than 13 months since the last ceasefire deal, and since the last time there was an exchange of hostages and prisoners for this moment. It appears that this deal is imminent, if not done already. We're reporting that Hamas has agreed to the deal. There was certainly an expectation from the Israelis.
Also, there's no way this has been... what Biden said actually in his statement seemed to line up with what I looked up at in the Rafah thing, which makes me feel a little bit more like I know what I'm talking about. He said he laid out the precise contours of his plan on May 31st. My feeling is like there was no way that any peace was ever going to happen until Israel had at least done a full sweep from the top to the bottom of the Gaza Strip, and the final city on the south that needed to be invaded or fought over was Rafah. And it looked like this happened in early May, so that timeline, I guess, lines up to me. But that makes sense, I guess.
Side that they would agree to a deal. All of this, of course, brokered after intensive negotiations with the mediators, the United States, Qatar, and Egypt. So this is obviously extremely welcome news after...
This is great. I mean, this is actually such a good thing. I think people have wanted... I mean, like, really, this is amazing. I mean, whether it was Biden or Trump or whoever, this is a great thing.
Some 14 months of fighting. And what we expect to happen, if indeed this deal goes into effect, is that over the course of some 6 weeks, we would see more than 30 Israeli hostages released by Hamas and other groups who are holding them in Gaza.
Trump 100%. How is it Trumpologically? I don't know. So I don't really know if this is true or not because I don't have enough information about it. But the people that are probably going to say that it's because of Trump would probably use the example. I think that there were hostages with Jimmy Carter. And then when Reagan won the election, the hostages were immediately returned. So people are probably going to liken the situation to the time with Reagan and Jimmy Carter. And I think that they're going to think that...
Which probably wouldn't be good because I think that the... I need to do research on this. I think I have this in my notes. Someday we will. That Reagan's transition team or Reagan's negotiators, whatever, were probably up to no good negotiating that behind the scenes so that as soon as Reagan stepped into office, it would undermine Carter a ton.
Basically, Trump is going to come in there and they're worried about just getting completely carpet bombed and just getting annihilated because I think that there's a good chance Trump would probably do that. So that's like, I mean, is that the reason why this happened? It's impossible to know that. But I do think that the people that are, like leading Hamas, I do think that they're worried about that. Absolutely.
The people that are leading Hamas are all dead. I don't think anybody's worried about a carpet bombing scenario. I think we're way past any. I don't even know what the fuck is left of Hamas in the Gaza Strip that could be carpet bombed. But
I mean, like I would be fucking like if you were Hamas, wouldn't you be fucking terrified of that? Like, yeah, I would be absolutely.
Like, Israel already has all the capacity, all the capability to do anything the U.S. could do. I mean, like, I don't know what the extra fear would be here, but.
I think we have the exact number of Palestinian prisoners who would be released by Israel, and then there are a bunch of other different elements that would go into effect. Palestinians would be allowed to go home in the Gaza Strip. More humanitarian aid would get to go in. But I think that the point here, Pam, is that after weeks of feverish work on the U.S. side with both Biden administration officials and officials from the incoming Trump team working in coordination with each other, they and the other mediators have managed to get the Israelis and Hamas, it appears, across the finish line where we are going to get a truce, a pause in this fighting. One thing I really want to emphasize is this does not mean the end of this war. This means a break in this war. Hopefully,
yeah, I think that everybody knows that.
This break will last at least 6 weeks, if not longer. Hopefully, all
Jesus Christ, how fucking bleak. Hopefully this break in the war lasts for at least 6 weeks. It's like 2 months. Oh my God.
People will come home who are...
Why is it that when AsmonGold was asked to speculate about why people would give Trump credit for it, why didn't he speculate on why people would give Biden credit for it?
Supposed to come home, but there are big questions about what would happen after this first phase of a ceasefire, which, as it stands now, and this plan has been in place for quite some time since President Biden laid it out in May, this is expected to...
Somebody says, especially after Pete Hegseth said in his confirmation that he wants to kill every member of Hamas. Yeah, I mean, like, it's impossible to know whether that was a factor, and I think that it's unfair to say that it definitely was. But I would tell you this, that if I was in charge of Hamas and I saw these two crazy fucks that are about to be in charge, and they have nuclear weapons and like fucking, faster than the speed of sound jets and infinite bombs that are saying that we're going to kill every...
So Israel has nuclear weapons and faster than sound jets, and they have lots of bombs. But okay.
Every single one of you, I would be more willing to negotiate. I absolutely would.
Last around 6 weeks. So we're still waiting for final word, I believe, from all of the parties, but this certainly seems imminent, if not a done deal already.
I want to go back to MJ Lee at the White House. I believe we're reconnected. MJ, what can you tell us about this plan?
Well, Pam, according to a senior administration official telling CNN, it is done, it is confirmed, meaning that Hamas has given that final green light, agreeing to the ceasefire and hostages release deal that had been on the table for a while. And based on all of our reporting, we knew that this really was the final step that all of the parties were waiting for, that it really came down to this group agreeing to the parameters that everybody else had agreed to. Part of the reason we have been so cautious in our reporting all of this time is precisely that in the end, it came down to Hamas giving this final green light. And when we have spoken to at least U.S. officials involved in these discussions and with knowledge of the situation, they always pointed to the fact that it was impossible to make any kind of predictions with certainty because at the end of the day, they were dealing with Hamas. But again, here we have a confirmation from a senior administration official that Hamas has finally given the green light and there is a deal for a ceasefire in Gaza and for the hostages to be released. This is a deal, as you were talking about just now with Alex, that has been elusive for the Biden administration and for the U.S. for so many months. You know, we had that initial ceasefire back more than a year ago, around Thanksgiving, 2 Thanksgivings ago, when a number of hostages came out. That ceasefire ended up being temporary, only lasting a number of days.
15 months.
And really since then, U.S. officials have been working to get a second
5 days before the 20th? Well, somebody said in chat, the innocent fears the cruel and the cruel fears the madman. Yeah, I mean, like, in my opinion, I'll say it, I think Trump's a fucking psychopath. I do. I think that he would bomb them and he would not give a fuck about how many innocent people got killed or anything. He would legitimately fucking kill all of them.
Just to be clear, no other world leader thinks this or acts like this. This doesn't influence the actions of literally anybody else. The Taliban was still killing American soldiers in Afghanistan. Russia was still instigating conflict and fighting on the ground in Ukraine. Syria, Assad was still using chemical weapon attacks on his citizens. Turkey was still at war with Kurdish people in Turkey and in northern Syria, like literally nobody around the world. This is just a delusion created by Americans and for Americans in order to propagate this weird image of this God Emperor Trump that supposedly the rest of the world is scared of, but nobody navigates any international relations. Like nobody actually thinks that Trump is going to do anything like this. Nobody, like, there's no evidence for any of that. But
I think that's what he would do. And I think that they're worried, and I think they know that. And also, it's probably not a guarantee, but it's like, would you want to take the risk of that? Ooh, I wouldn't. I wouldn't at all. That's an intellectually dishonest statement? Really? I mean, okay. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, if I were them, that's how I would look at it. Yeah. I mean, really, like that's how I would look at it. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, maybe it wouldn't happen that way. Maybe that's not how they see it, but that's just how I'd see it.
The ceasefire in place, but it had been so challenging. There were so many moments throughout the last year plus where we reported that things looked like they were maybe getting close, that we had reason for optimism based on our sources and our reporting. But even in these final days, everybody we had talked to were so careful to almost not get their hopes up too much. I think we should.
Yeah, somebody said too, hasn't he already promised to bomb them if they're not free by the time that he takes office? He has. Yep. That's exactly, yes, that is exactly what.
He also promised that he would lower the budget deficit and cut the debt and do a million other things that he's failed to deliver on. In his last term, he came in, I don't know, what, do I even need to run through every fucking thing again? to defund and repeal and replace the ACA, get an infrastructure bill passed. I mean, like.
What it was. And yeah, 5 days before he takes office.
And a good deal amount of time talking about Donald Trump and the incoming president's desire to get this done that had been really so decisive in the end in helping to get this across the finish line.
Certainly. And just for our viewers, just to remind you, in terms of the numbers, Hamas and its allies hold 94 people taken from Israel on October 7th, 2023. The majority are civilians. 34 are confirmed dead, but the number is almost certainly higher than that. 81 are men and 13 women, and there are two under the age of 5. And if
it was not Hamas, but Israel who was forced to capitulate by Trump. I mean, good. Like, I mean, yeah, I think that, yeah, good.
Of course, there's going to be phases, as Alex had laid out.
Yeah, good either way. Doesn't matter. Like, either way, it's good no matter.
I'm really curious what the details are of that phase 2 and phase 3.
During the expected ceasefire. I want to go straight to Jeremy Diamond, who is on the ground there in Israel, to get the Israel part of this, because there's a process in Israel, right, Jeremy? Walk us through that.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Pam. And first of all, I think it's important to note that for the last 2 days, the Israeli government officials who I've been speaking with have been saying this is in Hamas's hands. We need Hamas to say yes in order to get to a deal. And that is indeed what has now happened. And so for all intents and purposes, we do indeed now have an agreement between these parties to go into a ceasefire that is expected to last 6 weeks, during which you will see 33 Israeli hostages released, hundreds of Palestinian prisoners released from Israeli jails in exchange the much needed entry of.
That's good. Yeah, because a lot of people don't know this, but apparently Israel had a lot of Palestinian hostages as well. I didn't even know that. Intense and yeah.
Humanitarian aid, but the process that now needs to happen here in Israel in order for this deal to actually become a reality. This agreement will now go from the Israeli Prime Minister. He will take this agreement before his security.
Did he call them hostages?
Palestinian hostages as as well. I didn't even know that.
That's not prisoners of war, are not considered hostages, but okay.
Intense and yeah.
But.
Humanitarian aid, but the process that now needs to happen here in Israel in order for this deal to actually become a reality. This agreement will now go from the Israeli Prime Minister. He will take this agreement before his security cabinet, which is a smaller group of his governing coalition, some of his top ministers primarily involved in security affairs. They will then give an up or down vote on this. If it is approved, it will then go to the full cabinet for approval, and only then will the Israeli government be able to officially sign off on this deal and begin marching towards implementation. There is one additional hurdle before implementation, and that is giving the individuals who were impacted by those Palestinian prisoners who will be released the opportunity to petition the Supreme Court against their release. That is largely a formality. The Israeli government has enormous sign off on this deal and begin marching towards implementation. There is one.
What's the functional difference between prisoners of war and hostages? Just curious, having a hard time finding one myself. I should know this. So like a hostage, I think, is somebody that you have, that you've captured. There's a whole bunch of rules for how to treat prisoners of war. I think a hostage might necessarily be, well, because you can capture hostages during war. Somebody that you take like outside of wartime is always considered a hostage, though. I'm almost positive of that. So for instance, let's say that like Mexico and the United States, let's say Mexico sends soldiers in, and let's say they capture U.S. soldiers and then take them back to Mexico, assuming that we weren't in war yet. Even if it was soldiers capturing soldiers, I think those would still be considered hostages. There's also rules for, I think, I don't think you're allowed to negotiate prisoner releases in exchange for other military concessions. I think that's considered like hostage taking as well, to some extent, I think. Like I can do like a prisoner for prisoner swap, but I can't say like if you stop bombing this or if you bomb this or whatever, or we're gonna bomb this unless you release our prisoners. I don't think you're allowed to do that. But let me we can check real quick. Prisoner versus hostage IHL. That's my guess. What the fuck? Why the fuck is this in? Oh. Okay. Is there like a language thing on this page somewhere that I'm missing? Okay, whatever. Any person who seizes or detains and threatens to kill, to injure, or to continue to detain another person, herein referred to as a hostage in order to compel a third party, namely a state, an international intergovernmental organization, a natural or juridical person, or a group of persons to do or to abstain from doing any act as an explicit or implicit condition for the release of the hostage commits the offense of taking of hostages. Yeah, okay. I don't know if they'll give a strict definition of hostage taking, but basically what I said, I think. You can't capture people for leverage, not soldiers or anything else.
Additional hurdle before implementation, and that is giving the individuals who were impacted by those Palestinian prisoners who will be released the opportunity to petition the Supreme Court against their release. That is largely a formality. The Israeli government has enormous leverage, and the Prime Minister in particular has enormous freedom to release those prisoners as it relates to security matters. So that will likely be a 24-hour period that will go by, and that likely takes us most likely to Sunday, which is what I've been told is the most likely date when this deal will actually be implemented on the ground. That will mean that we will see the first Israeli hostages in more than a year be released as part of.
Does international law have teeth? It seems like it is just used as moral footing to stand on. It's like used in conjunction with other like agreements or arrangements or clauses for war or whatnot.
A diplomatic agreement here for these hostages to come out of Gaza. You will see the release of Palestinian prisoners from Israeli jails. And in addition to that, of course, you will see Israeli jets, Israeli troops on the ground lower their weapons. And for the first time in over a year, you will finally see the guns be silenced here, and the people of Gaza will finally get a much-needed reprieve from the military assault that they have been undergoing over the last year.
All right, thank you so much, Jeremy. I want to go to CNN foreign policy reporter Barak Ravid. What can you tell us about this deal and when the Hamas prisoners will be released, those held hostage, I should say, and the Palestinian prisoners as well? What more can you tell us about that?
So I think one of the most important things that our viewers need to know right now is that there are 7 Americans held by Hamas in Gaza. 2 of them are expected to be released in this initial phase of the hostage deal. One of them is U.S. citizen Keith Siegel. That a video of him from captivity was aired a few months ago.
Oh, boy.
And he is in the list for this first phase. Another U.S. citizen is Sagid Ekelchen, another U.S. citizen who is on the list of the 33 hostages expected to be released in this initial phase. And I think what is very interesting is that this deal has been in the making for months, since President Biden laid out his plan, his proposal last May, and U.S. negotiators, Qatari negotiators, Egyptian negotiators, Israeli negotiators have been working on this for months. I think the breakthrough came when the deal with Hezbollah on the ceasefire in Lebanon happened, because then Hamas in Gaza understood that it has been left alone and that no one's coming to save them. And since then, what I hear from Israeli news officials is since then they saw a change in how Hamas is negotiating this deal, and this is how we got to this point.
Well, there it is. I think this is great. That's great. I mean, people are getting killed by this constantly. Hopefully it lasts as long as possible. Yeah, this legitimately, it's tragic this does not happen sooner. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm just glad that it's happening now. Thank God, right? I mean, like, really. And, man, literally the same hostage deal, lying cons. I'm not sure. I bet Trump wants all the credit for it. I think that it's because of Trump or not, based off of whether you like him or not. I don't think that you can really define whether it was him that did it or not. I really don't think so. Like, it's not like there's going to be a way that Hamas is going to say with absolute honesty everything that went into making this decision. So this is going to be one of those situations where if you like Trump, this ceasefire happened because of Trump. And if you don't like Trump, this ceasefire happened, luckily, before Trump took office. So that's the way that I think that a lot of people are going to read this. And I think that they're going to make comparisons with the Jimmy Carter, Reagan thing. With the
Why would he title the video, Trump just ended the war in Israel then? Oof, he's getting, just kidding. Never mind. I love you, YouTube editors.
The hostages back, I think they were in Iran back then, in like the 1980s or 1981, something like that, right? And so that's kind of what I'm expecting is going to happen.
Wasn't too bad, I guess, what he said. Could have been worse, but... The trouble with Elon, real quick, a Sammy Harris article. I didn't set out to become an enemy of the world's richest man, but I seem to have managed it all the same. Until this moment, I resisted describing my falling out with Elon Musk in much detail, but as the man's cultural influence has metastasized, and he continues to spread lies about me on the social media platform that he owns, Twitter/X, it seems only appropriate to set the record straight. I know that it annoys many of my audience to see me defend myself against attacks that they recognize to be spurious, but they might nevertheless find the details of what happened with Elon interesting. Of all the remarkable people I've met, Elon is probably the most likely to remain a world historical figure, despite his best efforts to become a clown. He is also most likely to squander his ample opportunities to live a happy life, ruin his reputation and most important relationships, and produce lasting harm across the globe. None of this was obvious to me when we first met, and I have been quite amazed at Elon's evolution, both as a man and as an avatar of chaos. The friend I remember did not seem to hunger for public attention, but his engagement with Twitter and X transformed him to a degree seldom seen outside of Marvel movies or Greek mythology. If Elon is still the man I knew, I can only conclude that I never really knew him. When we first met, Elon wasn't especially rich or famous. In fact, I recall him teetering on the brink of bankruptcy around 2008 while risking the last of his previous fortune to make payroll at Tesla. At the time, he was living off loans from his friends Larry and Sergey. Once Elon became truly famous and his personal wealth achieved escape velocity, I was among the first friends he'd called to discuss his growing security concerns. I put him in touch with Gavin de Becker, who provided his first bodyguards and recommended other changes to his life. We also went shooting on at least 2 occasions with Scott Reitz, the finest firearm instructor I've ever met. It is an ugly irony that Elon's repeated targeting of me on Twitter and X has increased my own security concerns. He understands this, of course, but does not seem to care. So how did we fall out? Let this be a cautionary tale for any of Elon's friends who might be tempted to tell the great man something he doesn't want to hear. 1. When the SARS-CoV-2 virus first invaded our lives in March of 2020, Elon began tweeting in ways that I feared would harm his reputation. I also worried that his tweets might exacerbate the coming public health emergency. Italy had already fallen off of a cliff, and Elon shared the following opinion with his tens of millions of fans. The coronavirus panic is dumb. On March 6th. Damn. As a concerned friend, I sent him a private text. Oh, Jesus. Holy shit. How long has Sam Harris been off of X? It's been like 2 years, right? From Elon Musk mentioning Sam Harris. Sam Harris is mentally ill. Sam Harris is mentally ill. Sam Harris is an utter idiot. Sam Harris has gone flat out insane. It's tragic. Sam Harris is just actually not that smart. I literally have zero interest in Russia, Tesla, blah, blah, blah. Sam Harris is a pompous hypocrite. Sam lost me when he said that any lies at all would justify Trump losing. I mean, Sam literally wrote a book on why lying is evil. Sam Harris is a subtard. Read Lying, the new book. Oh, and then this goes back to 2011. So this is just recently, I guess. Or these are all 2024 November. Hey, brother, I really think you need to walk back your coronavirus tweet. I know there's a way to parse it that makes sense. Panic is always dumb. But I fear that's not the way most people are reading it. You have an enormous platform and much of the world looks to you as an authority on all things technical. Coronavirus is a very big deal. And if we don't get our act together, we're going to look just like Italy very soon. If you want to turn some engineers loose on the problem, now would be a good time for a breakthrough in the production of ventilators. Elon's response was, I believe, the first discordant note ever struck in our friendship. Sam, you of all people should not be concerned about this. Okay. He included a link to a page on the CDC website indicating that COVID was not even among the top 100 causes of death in the US. This was a patently silly point to make in the first days of a pandemic. We continued exchanging texts for at least 2 hours. If I hadn't known that I was communicating with Elon Musk, I would have thought I was debating someone who lacked any understanding of basic scientific and mathematical concepts like exponential curves. Elon and I didn't converge on a common view of epidemiology over the course of those 2 hours, but we hit upon a fun compromise. A wager. Elon bet me $1 million to be given to charity against a bottle of fancy tequila, $1,000, that we wouldn't see as many as 35,000 cases of COVID in the United States. Cases, not deaths. Holy shit. The terms of the bet reflected what was, in his estimation, the near certainty, 1,000 to 1, that he was right. Having already heard credible estimates that there could be 1 million deaths from COVID in the US over the next 12 to 18 months, these estimates proved fairly accurate. I thought the terms of the bet ridiculous and quite unfair to Elon. I offered to spot him 2 orders of magnitude. I was confident that we'd soon have 3.5 million cases of COVID in the US. Elon accused me of having lost my mind and insisted that we stick with a ceiling of 35,000. 2 orders of magnitude off. Yikes. We communicated sporadically by text over the next couple of weeks while the number of reported cases grew. Ominously, Elon dismissed the next batch of data reported by the CDC as merely presumptive, while confirmed cases of COVID on his account remained elusive. A few weeks later, when the CDC website finally reported 35,000 deaths from COVID in the US and 600,000 cases, I sent Elon the following text. No! Full version here. Oh. Subscribe to Harris's Substack if you can. Is 35,000 deaths plus 600,000 cases greater than 35,000 cases? This text appears to have ended our friendship. Elon never responded, and it was not long before he began maligning me on Twitter for a variety of imaginary offenses. For my part, I eventually started complaining about the startling erosion of his integrity on my podcast without providing any detail about what had transpired between us. Oof, reminds me of me and Lex. At the end of 2022, I abandoned X altogether, having recognized the poisonous effect that it had on my life, but also in large part because of what I saw it doing to Elon. I've been away from the platform for over 2 years, and yet Elon still attacks me. Occasionally, a friend will tell me that I'm trending there, and the reasons for this are never good. As recently as this week, Elon repeated a defamatory charge about me being a hypocrite for writing a book in defense of honesty, and then encouraging people to lie to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. Not only have I never advocated lying to defeat Trump, despite what that misleading clip from the Trigonometry podcast might suggest to naive viewers, I've taken great pains to defend Trump from the most damaging lie ever told about him. Elon knows this because we communicated about the offending clip when it first appeared on X. However, he simply does not care that he is defaming a former friend to hundreds of millions of people, many of whom are mentally unstable. On this occasion, he even tagged the incoming president of the United States. All of this remains socially and professionally awkward because Elon and I still have many friends in common, which suggests the terms of another wager that I would happily make if such a thing were possible, and I would accept 1,000 to 1 odds in Elon's favor. I bet anyone who knows us both knows that I am telling the truth. Oof. Everyone close to Elon must recognize how unethical he's become, and yet they remain silent. Their complicity is understandable, but it is depressing all the same. These otherwise serious and compassionate people know that when Elon attacks private citizens on X, falsely accusing them of crimes or corruption, celebrating their misfortunes, he is often causing tangible harm in their lives. It's probably still true to say that social media isn't real life until thousands of lunatics learn your home address. A final absurdity in my case is that several of the controversial issues that Elon has hurled himself at us of late, and even attack me over, are ones that we agree about. We seem to be in near total alignment on immigration and the problems at the southern border of the US. We also share the same concerns about what he calls the woke mind virus, and we fully agree about the manifest evil of the so-called grooming gang scandal in the UK. The problem with Elon is that he makes no effort to get his facts straight when discussing any of these topics, and he regularly promotes lies and conspiracy theories manufactured by known bad actors at scale. And if grooming really were one of his concerns, it's strange that he couldn't find anything wrong with Matt Gaetz. Elon and I even agree about the foundational importance of free speech. It's just that his approach to safeguarding it, amplifying the influence of psychopaths and psychotics, while deplatforming real journalists and his own critics, or savaging the reputations of democratic leaders while never saying a harsh word about the Chinese Communist Party, it's not something I can support. The man claims to have principles, but he appears to have only moods and impulses. Any dispassionate observer of Elon's behavior on X can see that there is something seriously wrong with his moral compass, if not his perception of reality. There is simply no excuse for a person with his talents, resources, and opportunities to create so much pointless noise. The callousness and narcissism conveyed by his antics should be impossible for his real friends to ignore, but they appear to keep silent, perhaps for fear of losing access to his orbit of influence. True. Of course, none of this is to deny that the tens of thousands of brilliant engineers Elon employs are accomplishing extraordinary things. He really is the greatest entrepreneur of our generation. Because of the businesses he's built, he will likely become the world's first trillionaire, perhaps very soon. Since the election of Donald Trump in November, Elon's wealth has grown by around $200 billion. It's nearly $3 billion a day and over $100 million an hour. Such astonishing access to resources gives Elon the chance, and many would argue the responsibility, to solve enormous problems in our world. So why spend time spreading lies on X? A scathing Substack. Will Elon respond? No. Remember, the goal with these types of far-right people is to never, ever, ever, ever respond. You never respond. Never, ever. They've all learned their strategy. I don't know from Trump, or maybe media's always known it, but you never spotlight this. Hassan does the same tactics as all of these guys, as Trump and Elon and everything. You never, ever, ever do this. You never respond directly.
He will, a Pizzagate lunatic, like literally one of the people who gave us Pizzagate. You know, I'm not going to name them because they would be happy to be named in this context, but there's a couple of guys who gave us Pizzagate. You know, you remember what Pizzagate was?
Of course. That Hillary Clinton was running a pedophile ring out of a pizza parlor
out of the
Washington,
basement of a pizza
DC.
parlor that doesn't have a basement.
In their defense, the pizza was fantastic.
Okay. So, the people who gave us that are people who are in very good standing with Elon, who Elon will talk to them in Twitter Spaces and give them the mic and boost them and just high five them, and he knows, I've pointed out how crazy these people are to him. These people will send him a clip from my podcast or some other podcast, maybe this podcast, maybe we'll do it here, right? Making it seem like I've said the opposite of what I said in context. Like they sent him one where I seem to be saying that I didn't care about the chaos at the border, whereas I have exactly Elon's view of the border. And in context, you could hear that. But they'll send the opposite, and Elon will react to it. He doesn't have time to listen to the podcast, obviously, so he'll just react to the clip saying, Sam Harris is a total moron, right? Like it was something like that. But amplify this to millions of people. And I will email him and say, Elon, you're being gamed by right-wing trolls who gave us Pizzagate. This is not what I said in context, right? And he will tell me to go fuck myself. And he knows.
But he read the email.
Oh, yeah. He will respond to the email, go fuck yourself. He does not care if he's defaming someone in public who used to be a friend. So, and this is why we're no longer friends. So.
Well. Okay. Quick meme. What is this video about?
There's so much you don't know about me.
9 months ago, 54 views. Wait, who the fuck linked this? Never mind. Where are Harris's receipts? He's saying these were all set over text and email, right? I don't know if it's normal for like non-super internet people to be like posting screenshots of emails and shit. I imagine if he says it, it's probably true. Because Elon could just say it's not true. But if Elon said it wasn't true, then I imagine he'd post screenshots. I need to go downstairs and like, I have a package here. I shipped all my camera stuff back from Atlanta because I don't want to fly to DC and back to Miami with it all because fuck that. But all my lenses are with my equipment. But I got one package here and I'm not sure if that package that arrived is the package with my lenses. Trump controlling committees. I spoke with House Intel Chair Mike Turner, who told me that Speaker Johnson has fired him as chair of the committee overseeing the Intelligence Committee. Johnson said it concerns Mar-a-Lago as justification for the removal. Okay, from Mar-a-Lago? What, like it's fucking DC? Or fucking Moscow? Or no, it's Mar-a-Lago, so it'd be like it's the White House or the Kremlin? The fuck? Did you see Bernie repeating your talking point?
To look objectively at what Biden has accomplished domestically, it is probably the strongest record of achievement since anybody, since FDR in the 30s.
True.
What you're talking about is rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and creating a huge number of jobs, making real progress in rebuilding manufacturing in America. First president really to take on big pharma.
True.
And have some impact in lowering the cost of prescription drugs, most notably beginning to negotiate prescription drug prices under Medicare. Investing.
Ooh, does Hassan argue against any of this, or does he cuck out and just? I like how he's looking at chat to see to gauge their feelings on it.
Very heavily in climate change and sustainable energy. A president who is unashamedly pro-labor, walked on a picket line behind an automobile workers. That is a strong record. That's only part of what he did. Problem is, record is strong, but I think he was not been the kind of leader and communicator that made that record understandable to the American people. And second of all, even more importantly, that is an admirable record that he should be very proud of. I'm proud to work with him on some of those things. You look objectively.
Trump pressured people to raise flags despite Carter's death. Yeah, I saw that. It's pretty cringe.
If I snap my fingers, you'll forget that you were ever gay.
I was never gay.
Exactly.
Wait, no, stop.
Yes.
No, stop. You can't. I was never gay.
Okay.
No, I was never gay. You can't just state something, just snap your fingers and then be like, I was never gay.
You say so.
Based. I don't think I'm ever watching this. I don't care. What is this?
Do you support Donald Trump being a pollster because he doesn't like a poll result?
I think Donald Trump. This is insane. Has that complaint been filed? The Donald Trump suing Seltzer? Oh my God, a month ago? Is this online anywhere to see? Or is this on like a Damn, that's got to be scary as fuck. I wonder how large her company, that polling company, even is. This action, which arises under the Iowa Consumer Fraud Act, Iowa Code Chapter 714H, including Section 17H, subsection or 0.3, subsection 1, and related provisions, seeks accountability for brazen election interference committed by the defendants in favor of now defeated former Democrat candidate Kamala Harris through the use of a leaked and manipulated Des Moines Register/Mediacom Iowa poll conducted by Seltzer and S&C and published by DMAR and Gannett in the Des Moines Register on November 2nd, 2024. Iowa Code, Chapter 714. So this is this would be like the code is always like criminal stuff, right? Or is there like contract stuff or tort? I guess there must be to list like cause of action, right? Maybe 714H Iowa Code. Consumer fraud, private actions. Okay, so private actions is when you're suing somebody for civil private stuff. That's considered tort, unless it's contract law, and that's something different. I don't know why. I don't even know what tort means. I just think that's what tort is. I don't know why, but okay. So 714H, including 714H.3, subsection 1. A person shall not engage in a practice or act the person knows or reasonably should know. So these are important things because they establish the intent, right? The mens rea that they have to knowingly do this. It can't just be you made a mistake, right? Or act the person knows or reasonably should know is an unfair practice, deception, fraud, false pretense, or false promise, or the misrepresentation. Okay, so this is all this, or the misrepresentation, concealment, suppression, or omission of a material fact with the intent that others rely upon the unfair practice, deception, fraud, false pretense, false promise, misrepresentation, concealment, suppression, or omission in connection with the advertisement, sale, or lease of consumer merchandise or the solicitation of contributions for charitable purposes. Huh. Okay. Tort equals common law of civil wrongs not arising from a contract. Well, there you go. I wonder, so all of this has to do with for the advertisement, sale, or lease of consumer merchandise or the solicitation of contributions for charitable purposes, right? All of this would be in relation to that, I guess. H, including section 17H.3, subsection 1. Huh, okay. Let's see. Seeks accountability for brazen election interference. I don't understand how the election interference would give you like a cause of action here. I don't know, but who knows? We'll see. Contrary to reality and defying credulity, defendant's Harris poll was published 3 days before Election Day and purported to show Harris leading President Trump by Iowa. Let's see. He ultimately won that for the astonishing 16-point polling miss. Seltzer brazenly claimed it's hard for anybody to say they saw this coming. Harris has clearly leaped into a leading position. However, as Seltzer well knew, there was a perfectly good reason nobody saw this coming because a 3-point lead for Harris in deep red Iowa was not reality. It was election interfering fiction. Yet Seltzer, who had prided herself on a mainstream reputation for accuracy despite several far less publicized egregious polling misses in favor of Democrats, discussed infra, would have the public believe it was merely a coincidence. One of the worst polling misses of her career came just days before the most consequential election in memory was leaked. Let's see. Defendants and their cohorts in the Democrat Party hoped that the Harris poll would create a false narrative of inevitability for Harris in the final week of the 2024 presidential election. I'm curious what the evidence is for the intentionality here. For too long, left-wing pollsters have attempted to influence electoral outcomes through manipulated polls that have unacceptable error rates and are not grounded in widely accepted polling methodologies. While Seltzer is not the only pollster to engage in this corrupt practice, She had a huge platform and following, and thus a significant and impactful opportunity to deceive voters. As Seltzer knows, this type of manipulation creates a narrative of inevitability for Democrat candidates, increases enthusiasm among Democrats, compels Republicans to divert campaign time and money to areas in which they are ahead, and deceives the public into believing the Democrat candidates are performing better than they really are. This would be like per quad versus per se has more to do than just defamation, right? So one thing we should look at, I guess, is does the Iowa code here award, is there like a statutory award for damages, or do you have to prove damages for this? Like what the fuck would be, a consumer who suffers an ascertainable loss of money or property as a result of a prohibited practice or act in violation of this chapter may bring in an action at law to recover actual damages. So remember, to sue somebody, you have to have not only a cause of action, so they've done something to break some part of some like common law or some part of like the code or whatever. You also have to be able to get a remedy from the court. That's why you have to be able to prove damages, right? Somebody could damage you in a way, but if you didn't lose anything for it, then the court doesn't care. Unless it's something that's considered an egregious harm. So like if I call you a rapist, that's like so bad, or accuse you of the crime of rape, that might be so bad that there's a statutory fine. You don't have to prove damages in that case. You just are automatically awarded if you can prove your case. But I wonder what Trump is even going to ask for as a remedy here. Like what damages? Huh. In addition to an award of actual damages, so these are your primary like compensatory damages, statutory damages up to 3 times the amount of actual damages may be awarded to a prevailing consumer. Okay, so that's only if you can prove some damages. Interesting. Okay, well. This is pretty crazy. But obviously nobody cares about anything happening in our country now because nobody cares about any of this. But the idea that the president of the United States is suing a pollster because he didn't like her poll is absolutely fucking unhinged and insane. But okay, I guess this is part of the United States now. So this is the lawfare they keep talking about? Yeah, basically. This is our new normal, I guess. The Democrat need for fake polling was even more acute than usual in the 2024 election, given Harris's many fatal weaknesses as a candidate and lack of appeal to critical swaths of the traditional Democrat base. Her incessant use of word salads, i.e., jumbles of exceptionally incoherent speech, only underscored the urgency for left-wing pollsters to try and rescue Harris's candidacy. Sources: Fox News, Breitbart. Nice. Millions of Americans were deceived by the doctored Harris poll. President Trump has made impactful, widely read statements on the matter, writing on Truth Social, inter alia. I think that just means like included within. Or among other things. Sorry, never mind. Incorporated or whatever is included. Use inter alia meaning among other things. President Trump has made impactful, widely read statements on the matter, writing on Truth Social, inter alia, so among other things he's done about this. The Seltzer's misconduct caused great trust and uncertainty at a very critical time. See President Trump's Truth Social. See also, why doesn't he link it? See also, Harris now leads Trump, the Des Moines Register. Uh-oh. Seltzer's polling miss was not an astonishing coincidence. It was intentional. As President Trump observed, she knew exactly what she was doing. Oh, well, shit. Well, if God Emperor Trump said it, that should be all the evidence we need. Defendant's conduct violated the Iowa Code. This is what we read, pursuant to which a person shall not engage in a practice or act the person knows or reasonably should know is an unfair practice, deception, fraud, false pretense, or omission of material fact with intent that others rely upon. I don't see how that has to do with, but it is only for the sale of merchandise or like the donation to a charity. Was that the only two things? So I don't understand, unless I'm misreading this or not understanding something. With the intent that others rely upon the unfair practice in connection with the advertisement, sale, or lease of consumer merchandise or the solicitation of contributions for charitable purposes. I don't understand how that's connected. Like, what is the consumer merchandise or charitable purpose? I don't know what that means, but accordingly, President Trump brings this action to redress the immense harm caused to himself, to the Trump 2024 campaign, and to millions of citizens of Iowa and across America by the Harris poll and the defendants. For this action necessary to deter defendants and their fellow radicals from continuing to act with corrupt intent and releasing polls manufactured for the purpose of skewing election results in favor of Democrats. President Trump, as a citizen of the United States, a resident of the state of Florida, the 45th president of the United States of America, and as the landslide winner of the 2024 presidential election, the president-elect and incoming 47th president of the United States. Iowa is the jurisdiction, I guess. That's where this was filed. The amount in controversy exceeds the jurisdictional amount for a small claims action. Polk County is a proper venue because this is a county where the transaction or any substantial portion of the transaction occurred and where defendants are doing business. Defendants reside in Iowa or are incorporated in Iowa, engage in substantial business in Iowa, and target Iowa consumers in the conduct of their business. Factual allegations. Underneath the surface, Seltzer has quietly used her polls to try and influence recent races in favor of Democrats, receiving ample coverage from the legacy media and thus lacking accountability. Where do they allege wrongdoing? Mm-hmm. Do they... Has anybody read this? Somebody in chat. Where the fuck is the... The truth is that there is no sensible or innocent explanation for the Harris poll since, as Manhattan Institute senior fellow James Pearson wrote, Seltzer's miss was beyond extreme. There's just no way it could have missed by that much. Manhattan Institute senior fellow James Pearson wrote, wow. Is that it? Claims for relief. Violation of the Iowa Consumer Fraud Act. Plaintiff realleges his allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 52. Okay. Oh, I didn't read the definition. That's my bad. So maybe for the definition of merchandise. Wait, hold on. What the fuck? Hold on. Fuck, we have a guest tonight, and he just got here. Okay, consumer merchandise. Wait, scroll to section 7.10.16. I have to go downstairs and see our person. Hold on. Merchandise section. Includes any objects, wares, goods, commodities, intangible securities, bonds, debentures, stocks, real estate, or services. Is that? Well, I don't know what the merchandise being talked about here is. But I guess they'll say it in the complaint, huh? Or services, emphasis added. So they're talking about services that were... Oh, because people pay her for the polling? Or pay her, because she gets paid to do polls? A consumer who suffers... President Trump, together with all of Iowa and American voters, is a consumer within the meaning of the statute. Okay. They furnish merchandise to consumers within the broad meaning of the statute since they provided a service, physical newspapers, online newspapers, and other content that contained the Harris poll. Jesus. So what are they asking for relief? Due to the need to spend extensive time and resources, including direct federal campaign expenditures, to mitigate and counteract the harms of the defendant's conduct, because the defendant's conduct was willful and wanton. President Trump is also entitled to statutory damages 3 times the actual damages suffered. Gee, okay. Actual damages, so that'll be determined upon trial of this action. Statutory damages 3 times. Ongoing deception, misleading acts. Jesus. I wonder if this would survive a motion to dismiss. Somebody said that this got transferred to a federal court. Or I wonder if they're... damn. All right. Well, we'll read more of that. Okay, I'm going to host... I think I'm just on Destiny tonight for anything else. I don't know how long it's going to take me to set up down there. It might be like 10 or 15 minutes, so be careful. Missing file, AE intro. Are you fucking serious? Oh, so good. Please don't make all the noise. Don't do it. It's going to do it. I still have the fucking New Year's intro. Boom, boom. Okay, I'll be live down there. I'll see you guys in a bit. Be careful, don't die. I love you all. Kick.com/destiny, kick.com/destiny, kick.com/destiny.